Now joining us is Raymond E. Vickery Jr., a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, Trade Development from Washington, D.C. For more of us, thank you for being with us on this broadcast, for joining us. We have just seen the 46th President of the United States swearing in the oath of office, and he has spoken about unity being the way forward for the United States at this time of crisis. What do you take away from the first speech by President Joe Biden?
Well, thanks for having me. I think it's a great day for democracy, and I believe the speech showed why it's so good, not only for democracy, but democracies like the United States and India, who put power into the people, and in the final analysis, that system is better than all others. It was a unity speech. It was a breath of fresh air. The contrast with Trump couldn't be more observant than it was. Trump, when he got on the plane doing a campaign rally, not even mentioning Biden and talking about himself. Instead, President Biden trying to not make himself the center of attention, but make the American people and the world the center of attention. He acknowledged what a difficult situation we're in, but he wasn't one of those people who said, like a dictator, yes, I'm the only one who can save it. What he said was, we're all in this together. We have to pull together. There's a lot of work ahead of us. But I think it really bodes very well, and I think it bodes particularly well for the U.S.-India relationship. Once again, it's not going to be just a transactional thing based upon security, but across the board in regard to COVID, in regard to economics, and most important, in regard to democratic values. So it's a great day in the United States. It's a great day for democracy.
Absolutely, Raymond. And we saw President Biden focusing in his speech first and foremost on the issues facing the domestic U.S. population at large. He spoke about domestic issues first. Of course, the coronavirus is number one on his priority list. Over 400,000 American lives have been lost so far. We saw at his inauguration ceremony everybody wearing masks. Now, we know that masks have been somewhat politicized in the last couple of weeks and months. What do we make of this?
Well, I think messaging is very important. As President Biden said, we've got to lead by the power of our example, not the example of power. And the example he set on coronavirus, and everybody else did there, is that common sense measures that are prescribed by scientists have to be observed. Wearing masks, socially distancing, avoiding close crowds. Those are all kind of fundamental. They're what's needed in addition to the vaccine. And now we can, with this example, move forward and hopefully depoliticize the wearing of masks. You know, there have been literal fights between people about whether you wear a mask as a Democrat, but you don't wear a mask if you're a good Trumpster Republican. Well, that's the kind of politicization of the issue which makes no sense at all. And the example set today by the people present showed the American people that we got to work together on the COVID virus.
Absolutely. Now, we heard President Biden say in his address, this is our historic moment of crisis and challenge. He said this on the Capitol steps. Now, this is, of course, talking to the divisive nature of the previous administration and focusing on what he has said being a president for all Americans.
Yes, it's speaking directly to all Americans. I mean, he repeatedly said, I'm going to work as hard for those people who didn't vote for me as I am for those people who did. It doesn't mean that we won't have disagreements, but it does mean that we can work together. And it's absolutely important, in my view, for the 72 or so million people who voted for Trump to recognize that it is not a question of going to war with your neighbor. It's a question of being able to come to some sort of compromise. And it's only by working across the aisle and bringing together Republicans and Democrats that America is going to restore its international leadership. Because I'm sure in India or in any other country, nobody wants to make a deal with a country that in 4 years is going to just be reversed. There used to be this principle in the United States, and a principle which Indian diplomats and politicians have followed better than we have, that politics stops at the water's edge. And that is what we have to get back to. It doesn't mean that there won't be changes, but there has to be some continuity and there has to be some reliability. I am so pleased that among the first acts is to rejoin the Paris Environmental Climate Change Conference, to rejoin the WHO, in essence, to rejoin the family of man. Instead of saying it's me first, it's me last, and it's me only, which is the way in which the Trump administration seemed to go forward. It was always a question of only what's in it for me. And sure, we have to have national interest, but you have to look at enlightened national interest. And I'm convinced with Joe Biden as president that we're going to be able to take a little longer term view and come to compromise on a range of issues, particularly issues which affect the U.S.-India relationship.
Absolutely, Raymond. And we have visuals on our screen of Biden taking oath. We have just had some visuals of him in the president's room signing what we believe to be the 17 executive orders. Now, take us through some of these orders. You have mentioned he'll be taking a much more human approach. We know that he'll be rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement. We also know that he'll be stopping funding for the border wall. Take us through some of these executive orders that he is signing straight away and getting straight to work.
Well, one of them, or a couple of them, have to do with an issue which is vital to the U.S.-India relationship, and that is immigration and what happens in regard to visas. As you may know, the Trump administration really took an anti-foreigner view, and going even so far as to not make Indian American green card holders able to bring in their spouses, and the same goes in regard to H-1B visas. There's going to be a reversal in terms of this discrimination against Muslims because of their religion only. Sure. So immigration is going to be a part of it. In the environment, there are going to be some reversals, some things which were put forward in the closing days to try to dismantle environmental protection. And I'm thinking of the Arctic lands, drilling there. I'm thinking of the Keystone Pipeline. As you well know, a very strong message was sent in the inaugural address about climate change as one of the existential challenges facing mankind. And so part of these executive orders will reverse these measures which were taken to try to prolong the reliance on carbon-based climate changing